Hello and welcome to my Wave 4 and Beyond Mario Kart 8 Booster Course Pass DLC predictions. Before I start the predictions, I do want to give some important notes regarding datamines, new and old. The only new thing is that Maple Treeway internally still seems to be referred to as a Wave 6 track. While I can't say for sure if it was truly swapped with Waluigi Stadium, or if that track was just delayed to Wave 4 or 5, I just cannot say. Also, as we have seen with Wave 3, the prefix datamine, while a great starting place, is subject to change. In particular, if a blank is not in the second cup, I will consider that a placeholder. The blank is not a confirmation of a nitro, it just isn't confirmation of anything else. It just is a lack of data there. Like all the base Mario Kart 8 tracks don't have data there because they're Mario Kart 8 Nitros, where the retros have data there. The blanks just don't have data there, which means they can still be overwritten, especially since most likely this DLC was starting to be planned in 2021. Why would they lock in Wave 6 2 years in advance? That doesn't make sense. Based on the first 3 waves, I think it is safe to say that a third tour track or a nitro will be in the second cup of each wave, as either the last track or the second to last track. If I see anyone coming, but the datamine, the datamine, which is already different than Wave 3, says that there's no more N64 tracks. I'm gonna tell you to watch the video before commenting, as I just explained it, and I'm going to continue to. Because last year being 2022, so this year, there were 3 brand new city tracks released as well as 1 nitro. Last year, there were 2 brand new city tracks, 1 nitro. Before that, 4 brand new city tracks and 1 new nitro. On average, there's 3 new city tracks every year, which lines up with the 3 tour spots that don't have tours from the music leak. And while there is more than 1 tour nitro that has been data mined for tour, I doubt they're going to go from 3 cities and 1 nitro in 1 year to 3 cities and 5 nitros in 1 year. That doesn't make sense. That being said, I do think there is still going to be more than 1 tour nitro this year, but not 5. It's also important to note that the insider rat girl who got waves 2 and 3 correct before their release said that the prefix were out of date and shouldn't be relied upon. Lastly, I will be rearranging the known prefixes from the past data mines. Not terribly, but seeing as they were rearranged a bit with wave 3 to fit a difficulty order or just a thematic order better, I am going to continue to do that. It is important to note that most prefixes that were in there, though, have been unchanged. Also, since Maple Treeway got moved forward from the music, I have moved a little bit of the music around. Nothing as extreme as Wave 6 to Wave 3, but I did do a little bit of that. Anyways, let's get into the Fruit Cup. Old data mines point to the first track of the Fruit Cup being Amsterdam Drift. These data mines, well, I still agree. Recently, Amsterdam Drift got its 3rd variant in Tour, and while it isn't my favorite Tour city, I do think it'll be a lot more fun with all variants combined. And I do think it's going to be one of the next ones just because it has all 3. And while technically, like, the release season doesn't matter too much since we got Snowland in July, I do think Amsterdam Drift would be a great one for spring, just because of all the flower patches. And I think for the tour cities and the music, for the most part, is pretty reliable, especially with Wave 4. You'll see that I didn't really move the cities from Wave 4 at all. Second in the Berry Cup, I actually have GBA Sunset Wilds. Now, those who remember the music leak will be like, but Sunset Wilds was planned for Wave 5. As I explained in the opening, I do think some of the ones with music leak are going to be moved forward just because clearly they have work done on them. So I think it just makes sense to move it forward. Sunset Wilds obviously being the first one of those that we're going to see. I think it's just going to have swapped places with the GBA track that was originally planned for Wave 4, or quote-unquote originally planned. Just, they've had more time to work on it. Sunset Wilds has been in tour for ages, and they have music already. Plus, I think it's very unlikely that the other GBA track that I think is going to be coming to the Booster Course Pass is going to be in the same wave, not let alone the same cup as the track that I'm going to have end. Next in the Berry Cup I have is DS Airship Fortress. Out of all the DS tracks in tour, I feel this one is the most likely to return in a DLC due to an overabundance of snowy mountain tracks, which I think leaves out DK Pass since we already have Merry Mountain. We will probably be getting DK Summit later in the DLC. And we also have Mount Wario in the base game as another snowy mountain track. And then for Luigi's Mansion, we just got a spooky track in Wave 3, so I just don't think Luigi's Mansion's very likely. When it comes to Airship Fortress versus Delfino Square, well, Airship Fortress is already in tour. All tracks from Wave 3 were in tour before Wave 3 released. So Delfino Square not being in tour, I do think hurts it a bit. Obviously, I have tracks in prediction that aren't in tour yet and don't have data mine objects in tour yet, so I wouldn't fully count Delfino Square out. I just think they're both fan favorites, and one of them is already in tour, so why not just go with the one that's already in tour, port it over, and make it look better? It's easier. Rounding out the Fruit Cup, I put GCN DK Mountain. I think ending this cup with a big fan favorite is a good idea, and not only is this a big fan favorite, but this would be the first Double Dash track in the DLC. So I think having such a fan favorite Double Dash track being the first one is a very smart idea. This is also an extremely recent addition to tour, and it was a crowd pleaser there. It looks great in tour, and I imagine this is one of those tracks that they'd want to get out as fast as possible. I kind of hinted in the beginning, I think Waluigi Stadium could be possible here, but prominent leaker, Fish Guy does seem to imply that it did actually get moved to Wave 6. So I'm going to keep it there. And for my sanity of if I put Waluigi Stadium in Wave 4, I would get bajillions of comments saying, but a switch with Maple Tree Waves. So, I cut my losses on that one. I do not think we're going to be getting Dino Down Jungle. I think DK Mountain instead. Anyways, as we get one last look at my Fruit Cup, all 4 tracks, I just want to remind you, I don't think the blanks that aren't in the second cup of a wave are Nitros or Tour tracks. Previous waves show that Nitros or a third Tour track are in the second cup. I believe that the Wave 4 blank was a placeholder and will be taken up by a second Double Dash track so that we get 4 Double Dash tracks in the second half of the Booster Course Pass. Just like with Amsterdam Drift in the last cup, I think that the Boomerang Cup will still start with the previously data-mined Tour Singapore Speedway as data-mined by the music leak. I imagine that this tour will probably get a third variant by the end of this month. So again, I think that makes it increasingly likely to be in the next wave. Plus, as Sydney's Sprint showed, you don't need to have all 3 main versions to get into Booster Course Pass. Sydney only had its first 2 when Wave 2 released. So I just think that this one is very likely. People seem to love the Singapore tracks. I've only played the second one. So I'm actually quite excited for the first one to return just so I can get to experience it because people love it. Anyways, I mean, this is a fan favorite, so it should be an 8. I mean, I love the city tracks, so I will not argue with more of them being in here, even if they're ones I don't love. For the second track of the Boomerang Cup, I am putting the second Double Dash track of this wave, GCN Daisy Cruiser. This one, again, more recently added to tour. It's also a fan favorite. It has a good gimmick with the tables moving, so I think it is a great Double Dash track to put early in the Double Dash appearances on the Booster Course Pass. And again, due to its underwater segments, I think it'd be a great fit for this wave, especially since it would still be one of the first DLC tracks in Mario Kart 8 to have an underwater segment. Boo Lake was the first in 8 years, if you did not know. For my next pick, I'm actually going to go with an oddball pick with We Dry Dry Ruins. Now you may be like, Alex, why the heck is this here instead of Koopa Cape or DK Summit? Well, I personally feel like, kind of like as I built off with Amsterdam Drift, Koopa Cape is more likely to be in the summer wave, and again, yeah, that probably doesn't matter that much. Snowland in August, I mean, I just don't think Koopa Cape's coming next wave. As for DK Summit, we just got a Snowy Mountain track in Wave 3 with Merry Mountain, so I do think it would be a wise idea to hold that one off till Wave 6, seeing as most likely Wave 6 will probably release in November, December, just like it did with Wave 3, and I think DK Summit would be a perfect track to put there. And with Dry Dry Ruins, it has assets in the files that have been data mined in Tour, so it is coming to Tour soon, most likely. So I don't think it would be a complete out of left field pick. And I think the main reason Maple Tree Waves got moved to Wave 3 was not because of anything wrong with Waluigi Stadium, but because they want a non-Rainbow Road Wii track in every wave. Mario Kart Wii is the best-selling Mario Kart game besides Mario Kart 8. And even then, I actually don't know. It still may be a better seller. I have not checked sales data. But it sold like hotcakes, so they obviously want as much Wii tracks as possible. So again, I think it makes sense to have 7 Wii tracks in the Booster Course Pass. Lastly, ending this track out is, as datamines say, LA Laps. Again, I don't think we're going to be getting more than 2 Tour Nitros in 2023. And I think it makes more sense to have those in Wave 5 and 6, which means, assuming that next year gives us 3 city tracks just like this year, to get all the city tracks that have been released at that point in the game, they have to put one at the end of a cup. Music says that this is going to be LA Laps, or full name Los Angeles Laps. This is personally the one I'm most excited for. That's actually not true. It's the one I'm second most excited for just because of the possibilities of it being a section track, since in Tour all 3 variants have different starting and finish lines from each other, which I think would make it a ton of fun. Plus, what little we heard of the remix sounds incredible, so this is something I'd be extremely excited about. Anyways, before we move on to Wave 5's Feather Cup, here's one last look at the complete Boomerang Cup. Again, I do think the blank that was for Wave 4 is a placeholder. When we get to Wave 5, you will see that I do not think it is a placeholder. Anyways, starting off Wave 5 and the Feather Cup, I have Bangkok Rush. This track is honestly the light in my opinion. The music and the visuals are both fantastic, especially for a mobile game. And the first variant is my favorite Tour Nitro. The music data mine puts it here, since it is a city that has already been released, I do think it is going to be early. I don't think it's going to be Wave 6 just because it already exists, so we already know what it looks like. They already have the full model because of the Tour cities. The only one that truly matters Nitro-wise is the first one released, because that's where they have all the city modeled. Because all the other routes, all they need to do is just put in the objects actually signifying the routes and planning the routes. Most of the hard work is in the first variant released. Bangkok already has that, so I do not think it's going to be Wave 6. So I think this makes sense. Plus, putting it behind Tour cities that already have more variants makes sense. That gives them more time to release more. This is the Tour track I'm most excited for, and, you know, I just cannot wait for it. Next up, I actually put GCN Mushroom Bridge. And now, while I would personally prefer Mushroom City, due to the amount of real-world cities, I don't think that's as likely as I'd hope. I do, however, think its counterpart will return due to it being a more simple Double Dash track, and it's one that people really tend to like. It's not a boring circuit track, and a bunch of car objects, including the bomb cars that debuted in this track, have been found in Tour in the past, so there is hope of it coming to Tour soon as well. I do think Mushroom City will be held off until the next proper Mario Kart game, where most likely there'll only be 1, maybe 2 Tour City tracks, and not, 14 or 12 or a lot of them. I don't know how much. I think it's 14. Next up, I have GBA Riverside Park. This is another more recent addition to Tour, and I think it's very likely to come to the BCP. But I also, like I hinted at when I was talking about Sunset Wilds, I do not think that this track is going to release in the same wave as DK Mountain. Both of them are more jungle-y tracks, and both of them were released in the exact same tour in Mario Kart Tour. Plus, since Sunset Wilds has been probably worked on more and longer, I do think it makes sense that this one would be delayed to Wave 5. And again, you don't want 2 jungle tracks. At least I don't think you'd want 2 jungle tracks in the same wave, especially when one of them is DK Mountain, which is a heavy hitter. So I think that this track is going to be here. And while it could be Yoshi Desert, as that has been data mined for Tour, they've been doing a lot of GBA tracks recently, so I don't think that one's going to actually be released in Tour for a little bit. So I do think it is safe to say that this one will actually make it up. Next, we have a Tour City. For this track, I'm using the data mined MOB AT. MOB being the internal destination for Tour tracks, and AT being the famous Greek city of Athens. Now, you may be asking, why is a Tour track here? I thought you said you didn't believe that the blanks would be Tour tracks or Nitros if they're in the first cup. Well, to that I say, I'm talking about actual blanks, things without prefix. The prefix leak actually had a Tour track here, not a blank. And I do think that all the Tour tracks that will actually be released in 2023 will be in the Booster Course Pass. So I think that includes 3 new cities. So you have to have another one ending a cup. Athens is cool. I have no issues with this. If it's anywhere near as good as Bangkok Rush, which is the most recent new city as of now, this should be a banger. Hopefully, first tour of 2023, we will know. Anyways, let's just get one last look at the Feather Cup before we move on to the Cherry Cup. Next up, I actually have Tour Vancouver Velocity. As I've mentioned, I think all audio leak tracks besides possibly Waluigi Stadium are going to be moved forward because they clearly already have work done on them. Vancouver Velocity already has all 3 variants done, where the other cities that are likely for the Booster Course Pass don't have all 3 variants done. So why would they hold this one off to Wave 6? So I just put this one here. I just think it's the most I think of all the audio leak tracks, this is the one that's most likely to be moved forward. As I mentioned with Dry Dye Ruins, I think that We Koopa Cape will release closer to summer, which I think Wave 5 will release sometime over the course of summer months, so May, June, July, August, maybe early September. I think this track would be a great fit for the Booster Course Pass. It has gliding, underwater segments, half pipes, and frankly, I want this track in the Booster Course Pass for its music. Although I do know that when this track inevitably comes, I'll be super disappointed if the music isn't like Fat Cat's rendition of it, because his remix is absolutely incredible. And I have a feeling the official one will disappoint me, the official music track, because I've been spoiled by that great one. And one last thing, this track was featured on the banner. I haven't really mentioned it in words, but I still do occasionally look at the banner. This one is on it. Just like DK Summit. We will get to that later. I think it's about time we got a Bowser's Castle on here. I don't think any of the prefix tracks from Wave 4 are likely to be a Bowser's Castle. And I frankly just doubt in general that they would have a Double Dash or a Wii spot be taken by Bowser's Castle, since there are a ton more popular tracks from both of those games that are already in tour, or at least coming to it soon. So I do think we're finally going to see an SNES Bowser's Castle. As for which one I choose, I'm going to pick the third one, as that tends to be the one people like the most. Plus, we have Donut Plains 3. We have Mario Circuit 3. I think they should continue the trend and have another third track. So I say Bowser's Castle 3. I can't believe we haven't already had a Bowser's Castle. So I do think having one in Wave 5 and in Wave 6 is a must. Rounding out of this cup is another tour track. This one I have is a Nitro. Like I said, if a blank is at the end or third place of the second cup of a wave, I do think that is going to be a Nitro. So I'm putting MOB YI here, or as assets in the abbreviations lead people to leave, a Yoshi's Island track. I do think this makes sense. We have yet to get a Yoshi track in the DLC, so having a brand new one would be pretty exciting. And again, this is the final cup of wave. This is the final track of Wave 5, so I do think it makes sense for this to be a Tour Nitro, or who knows, maybe it'll be a Mario Kart 8 Nitro, depending on when they release it. Starting off Wave 6's Acorn Cup is MOB MD, which many, myself included, believe to be the Spanish city of Madrid. A Madrid track is one of the most commonly theorized cities to come to tour. Is this just one that makes sense, being a very historically important city as the capital of Spain? Next, we finally have DK Summit, a snowy mountain for winter sports. Yeah, I think that's a winter release. It may be like, however, but if Maple Tree Way and Waluigi Stadium switched, why is there still a Wii track here? Again, as I mentioned earlier, I think the reason Maple Tree Way got moved to Wave 3 was just so they have yet another Wii track, especially with Dry Dry Ruins most likely coming to tour soon. That means they have yet another Wii track that's not Mario Kart 8 that they could just easily put into it. So I think, again, 7 Wii tracks is a win-win for them. Plus, they had 2 3DS tracks in Wave 3 with the Rainbow Road, and since most people believe that Wave 6 will be ending with Wii's Rainbow Road, I think it would be cool to have 2 Wii tracks yet again. So that's why I have this here, and not something else. The next 2 slots are blanks in a first cup, which means I do not think they will be tour tracks or nitros. For this first one, I decided to put one more 3DS track, 3DS Mako Woohoo. This is a fan favorite from Mario Kart 7, and in my opinion, one of the few tracks that justifies the existence of gliding, so I'd really like it here. Plus, Nintendo can just be lazy and reuse the Woohoo Town battle music, which gives them, yet again, less work to do. This also could be a DS track, probably Delfino Square, but I don't think so, as I think, like, the games like N64, 3DS, and DS are going to have pretty equal amounts of tracks in the DLC, that being 4 tracks for DS and 3DS, DS being the first 4 waves, 3 for N64. We'll get to that third one in just a second. So I do think that this makes sense to have here. Just a 3DS track in general, possibly Wario Shipyard as well, but Wario has a lot of tracks already in 8, so I put Mako Woohoo instead. I think it is only fair to have the second and last cup of the Booster Course Pass end with a Bowser's Castle, so I decided to choose an N64 track since It'll have been a while since there's been an N64 track, with that being Wave 2's Kalmari Desert. And again, I think they'll try to even out those games with the representation of Booster Course Pass. And if I had to choose a Bowser's Castle besides an SNES one, I would definitely choose this one. This one is very well known. People like it. It's a great track in Wii. So I think this would definitely be a crowd pleaser just to bring back of all Bowser's Castles. Anyways, let's just look at the Acorn Cup one more time before we move on to the final cup. This tour city was the hardest to pick from with the datamines. As the two names that stuck out to me and many others the most as tracks that could be cities was MOB or R, probably being Orlando, Florida, and MOB MU, which is probably Mumbai. Between the two, I chose Mumbai because we already have 3 North America cities in the game at this point. So Mumbai would just be more unique to have. So I'd just rather have it. I think it could be either. It could also be, I'd love a Venice track or a Cairo track as well. But for now, I'm just going with MOB MU for Mumbai. GCN Waluigi Stadium is finally here. Like other tracks that had the music leaked, this one could be moved forward. But again, Fish Guy does seem to think that it actually properly swapped waves with Maple Tree Way, so I'm just gonna keep it here. Again, I'll get slightly less angry comments if I keep it here. Who knows? Possible that it could be Wario Coliseum instead, but the banner did seem to have Waluigi Stadium. I don't really care. I like both tracks a lot, so just getting one of them is enough to make me happy. MOB BR, the Bathroom Nitro. I think this is the only other non-city tour Nitro that we will get in remaining waves. As, again, Nintendo popping out 5 non-city Nitros and 3 new city tracks in 1 year is not realistic. Looking at past years for reference, even if they're pumping out more Nitros now, more Retros now than ever in tour, pretty sure they just port the old models over and then just rework them until they work. For Nitros, they have to build from scratch, which takes more work. I think going from 1 Nitro to 5 Nitros is unrealistic. Going from 1 to 2, more realistic, which is why this is here. Lastly, Wii Rainbow Road. What else do I need to say? People love this track dearly, and oh dear, do I suck at Mario Kart Wii. Honestly, I want this track to come back to Mario Kart 8 just because I am way better at Mario Kart 8 and would be able to crush all my friends and family on this course to Mario Kart 8, where in Mario Kart Wii, we would all suck and get the bottom places. Plus, this track just has great music. And I'll just enjoy it personally will enjoy it way more with 8's handling and controls. So, I want it back. Plus, 7 Wii tracks in a Booster Course Pass. Come on, that's great, that's great. We gotta do it. Anyways, that is the final cup, with no new data mines, plus Wave 3 showing the old ones are not fully set in stone. This was definitely a harder prediction video to make, but hey, I do think the picks make sense, and hopefully you will as well. Again, most likely they started planning the Booster Course Pass, if I had to guess, October, November 2021 at the latest. So I legitimately do not think that the release of Wave 1, that Wave 6 was fully set in stone. I think they had ideas of stuff they wanted, like Rainbow Road and some of the tour cities. I think they had an idea of what the tour team is going to work on with some of its cities, like having 14 cities by the end of 2023. I think they had general ideas, but I didn't think they wanted to set anything in stone. Like, the first 3 waves, the prefixes were essentially fully filled out. There were only 2 blanks, both of them in the second cup at the very end of the second cup. Wave 4, I have a feeling that blank was only there as a placeholder of like, we'll see how well received other tracks are. Maybe we can move something else here. I really think that's what it was. But anyways, we'll see. Anyways, see you next time.